In the distant future, humanity had begun its ascent into the stars. What had started as a series of small, self-sustaining colonies scattered across the solar system soon became the foundation for a vast interstellar presence. Human engineers and scientists, fueled by decades of technological advances, created ships capable of faster-than-light travel, opening up new frontiers for exploration. However, with discovery came inevitable confrontation. The universe was not a peaceful place, and soon humanity discovered it was not alone. The Galactic Council, an interspecies organization, had overseen peace and trade across the known universe for centuries. Comprised of dozens of species, each with its own distinct culture and technology, the Council governed everything from trade routes to planetary sovereignty. Its members were as diverse as the stars themselves, but all shared one thing in common: an unwavering belief in the hierarchy of power. The most advanced species held the greatest sway, and weaker civilizations had little choice but to obey. For centuries, the Galactic Council had imposed a tribute system on all new members. These tributary species were expected to pay a significant cost in resources, technology, and manpower. The tribute wasn't just a formal payment, it was a symbol of submission, a demonstration of fealty to the Council's dominance. It was understood by all that those who failed to meet their obligations faced swift and brutal reprisals, often in the form of invasion or even annihilation. The Council's military forces, composed of elite and technologically superior species, enforced this system with terrifying efficiency. Humanity's entry into the Council was met with mixed reactions. On one hand, the human race had expanded at a staggering rate, quickly colonizing new star systems and proving their technological prowess. On the other hand, their relatively brief history as spacefarers, coupled with their aggressive tendencies and history of war, made many of the other species nervous. Humans were known for their resilience, but also for their penchant for conflict. It was a trait that made them both dangerous and unpredictable. When the first official human representative, Ambassador Thomas Kellerman, arrived at the Galactic Council's headquarters, he was not greeted with the same respect afforded to other members. His presence was seen as a test, both by the Council and by humanity. The Council's leaders, ancient beings who had lived for millennia, were not known for their patience or understanding of those they considered inferior. The humans were new, untested, and in their eyes, easily manipulated. Kellerman was keenly aware of this. The moment of truth came when the Council's emissaries demanded humanity's tribute. It was customary for the new species to present their tribute in the form of resources and technology, as well as military assets. The Council's members believed this ensured stability in the galaxy, that no one species could ever rise to challenge their authority. They saw themselves as the stewards of peace, and every race under their dominion had to prove their worth by offering something in return. Kellerman sat in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, his posture straight and his expression composed. The alien leaders, some humanoid and others vastly different in appearance, surrounded him. The air was thick with unspoken expectations, their gaze cold and calculating. The Council's leader, a tall, insectoid creature named Jerkath, spoke first. "Humanity has proven itself capable of great feats," Jerkath began in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "But your species is young and untested. You have advanced rapidly, but you have not yet earned your place among the stars. The Council demands tribute." Kellerman's heart raced, but his exterior remained calm. He had known this moment was coming. He had prepared for it his entire diplomatic career. However, this wasn't just any negotiation. This was a matter of survival. Humanity's future was on the line. "We understand your system," Kellerman replied, his voice firm but respectful. "And we're prepared to meet our obligations. But I must be clear on one thing: humanity does not submit. We offer tribute not out of weakness, but out of respect for the mutual benefits we can achieve. However, we will not be cowed." The Council's leaders shifted uncomfortably at his words. To them, this was heresy, an outright challenge to the very premise of their system. Jerkath's antennae twitched, a sign of displeasure. The insectoid leader leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Your defiance is noted, Ambassador Kellerman. But know this, if you do not provide the tribute, the consequences will be severe. The full weight of the Council will fall upon you. Do not mistake our willingness to extend an olive branch for weakness. Kellerman held his ground. I am not here to debate your system. I am here to make it clear that humanity will not be treated as subjugates. We will not give up our sovereignty, our resources, or our people to line the pockets of your Council. We're willing to work with you, but we do not bow to you. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. The alien leaders exchanged glances, muttering among themselves in languages unknown to Kellerman. He could feel the tension mounting. They were testing him, testing humanity's resolve. The fate of the human race hung in the balance. Finally, Jerkath spoke again, his voice low and threatening. We have dealt with species far more powerful than you. We have seen empires rise and fall. You will pay your tribute, or we will make you pay for your insolence. Kellerman leaned in, his voice calm but cutting. You misunderstand. We are not afraid of you. If you wish to test us, we will answer. And I can promise you this, we will not be the ones who fall. The Council leaders exchanged glances again, a ripple of unease passing through the room. For the first time, they were uncertain. They had assumed that the humans, like every other species before them, would bow to their demands. But Kellerman's response had not been one of fear, or even submission. It had been defiance. Consider this carefully, Ambassador Kellerman, Jerkath warned, his tone darkening. Your people are still children in the grand scheme of the galaxy. If you do not bend, you will face the full wrath of the Council. Kellerman straightened, locking eyes with the leader. Then let the war begin, he said simply. The tension in the room escalated, a charged silence filling the space as the leaders of the Galactic Council realized they were facing something they hadn't anticipated, a species unafraid of them, ready to fight for its survival, no matter the cost. Humanity's entrance into the Galactic Council was not a simple formality. It was a calculated move, both an opportunity and a challenge. The decision was made after years of deliberation, and while the potential benefits were undeniable, trade agreements, access to alien technologies, political alliances, the cost was steep. To be accepted into the Galactic Council meant submission to its laws, its customs, and most significantly its tribute demands. The tribute system was something that every species within the Council had been subjected to, and it had become a tradition of sorts. When a new species was welcomed into the fold, they were expected to offer a payment in goods, technology, or labor, often at a cost far greater than they anticipated. This tribute was not a one-time fee. It was an ongoing demand, meant to ensure the Council's continued supremacy and the peace of the galaxy. The more powerful a species, the greater their tribute was expected to be. For the weaker or newer species, the tribute often amounted to servitude, acts of goodwill or resource concessions that maintained the delicate balance of power in the universe. At first, humanity had been reluctant to agree to such a system, but the lure of galactic integration was too great. The promise of advanced technology, the chance to gain insight into the workings of the universe, and the ability to trade on the galactic stage were compelling enough to accept the terms. Earth's leaders believed that, with time, humanity could negotiate its way to a more favorable position within the Council. But no one was prepared for the true nature of the tribute demand. When the official message came, it was both an invitation and a warning. The Galactic Council, in its characteristic bureaucratic tone, extended an offer of full membership, along with a steep price. Humanity's tribute would be nothing less than the entire technological portfolio of Earth's best warships and weaponry, including a fleet of advanced destroyers, drones, and nuclear-powered star cruisers. In addition, they would be required to send several thousand of their brightest minds to serve the Council's scientific endeavors, including assisting in alien biological research. Finally, they would have to provide a percentage of their most precious resources, rare metals, fuel, and human labor in the form of engineers and soldiers, to the service of the Council for the next 200 years. The terms were brutal. It was an offer that no self-respecting species could refuse without facing dire consequences. And yet, It was an offer that most of humanity could not, in good conscience, accept. The initial shockwave from Earth's leaders reverberated across the globe. World leaders scrambled for solutions, calling emergency sessions with top diplomats, military strategists, and economists to discuss what to do. Some proposed trying to renegotiate the tribute, arguing that humanity had unique strengths that should be recognized. Others suggested outright defiance, convinced that it was better to stand their ground than become subjugated. But when one man, Ambassador John Harris, a seasoned diplomat, stood before the United Nations with his response, the world was taken aback. Ambassador Harris was known for his calm demeanor and tactful nature. His years in diplomatic service had earned him respect from every major nation. However, there was a fierceness in his eyes that few had ever seen. The moment the Galactic Council's terms were presented to him, Harris knew that the future of humanity was at stake. And he also knew that, for all their technology and resources, the Council had never truly faced a species like humanity. "You cannot intimidate us with your demands," Harris said in his statement to the media, his voice steady but resolute. "We are not a race of subjugation and fear. We are humanity, and we will not bow to any force, no matter how powerful, simply because we're told to. We will not give up our autonomy, our freedom, or our future for the sake of appeasing a bloated bureaucracy. If war is what you want, then war is what you will get." It was a declaration that shocked the world. Harris's words were not the product of a hasty decision, they were the result of careful thought. He understood that by rejecting the tribute, humanity was essentially declaring itself an enemy of the Galactic Council. But he also understood something that many others did not. Humanity had the will and the grit to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The response was immediate. The Galactic Council, infuriated by the audacity of Harris's refusal, issued a counter-declaration. They informed Earth that they had no intention of negotiating or altering their demands. In fact, they threatened to destroy humanity's fledgling colonies if the tribute was not delivered within the next 30 days. The message was clear: comply, or be annihilated. But what the Galactic Council failed to understand was that humanity's history was written in conflict, perseverance, and triumph over insurmountable odds. The Council had never encountered a species that, when faced with destruction, would stand and fight with such unity and resolve. They had underestimated Earth. In the days that followed, Harris worked tirelessly with military leaders, engineers, and scientists to put Earth's defense strategy into action. Unlike other species, humanity was not reliant on a single form of warfare. Their strength lay in adaptability, ingenuity, and an unparalleled capacity for invention. With the looming threat of an intergalactic conflict, the United Nations quickly authorized the creation of a new, secretive project, the construction of a fleet that would rival the greatest warships of the Galactic Council. Advanced AI systems were tasked with calculating battle strategies, while humanity's best engineers worked around the clock to create weapons capable of defending the Earth from an assault. But it wasn't just technology that humanity relied on, it was their resolve. Every nation, from the United States to China, Russia, and beyond, rallied together. The future of the human race was at stake, and they were determined to prove that their place in the galaxy was not for the taking. The next few weeks were marked by an intense race against time, as humanity prepared for a war that no one had ever imagined. Despite the overwhelming odds, there was a renewed sense of unity across Earth. Even as tensions flared with the Galactic Council, human determination surged, and in every corner of the globe, men and women from all walks of life knew one thing for certain: they would not let their civilization be crushed under the heel of the Galactic Council's tyranny. The war that was coming would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. And it would be humanity, not the Council, that would define the terms of the conflict. When the first communication arrived from the Galactic Council, humanity's leaders braced themselves. The message was clear: Earth's tribute demand had been issued. The Council demanded that Earth provide an entire fleet of warships, advanced technologies, and rare minerals, the likes of which would take centuries to extract. On top of that, they requested human labor to serve as indentured workers for various Council projects, something that bordered on slavery. The terms were non-negotiable. The human diplomats who received the communication were well aware of the Council's history. For centuries, the Council had imposed this tribute system on every new species it encountered. Lesser civilizations either capitulated or were swiftly destroyed, their planets reduced to ruins as a lesson for the others. The message was unmistakable: accept the tribute or face annihilation. However, the humans, led by a seasoned American diplomat named Thomas Jacobs, weren't intimidated. Jacobs was no stranger to the high-stakes world of diplomacy. He had dealt with adversaries who used threats and coercion before, but the Council was unlike anything Earth had ever faced. For a moment, the weight of the situation seemed to settle over him, but Jacobs quickly shook it off. He understood one fundamental truth: the Council could threaten, but it could not bully humanity. In the past, Earth's survival had hinged on the ability to innovate, to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. From the early days of human civilization to the technological revolutions of the modern era, humanity had thrived on its unwillingness to yield in the face of adversity. Now, facing the Council's ultimatum, this same tenacity would define their response. Jacobs had his orders, but he also had a plan that would turn the tables on the Council in a way they would never expect. Jacobs' reply to the Council's demand was succinct: "We reject your tribute. In fact, we will not only refuse to pay, we will stand ready to fight." At first, the Galactic Council was shocked. To deny the tribute was unthinkable. To declare war against the most powerful political entity in the galaxy was seen as suicidal. Earth was a young player on the galactic stage, and while humanity had made strides in technology, it was far from the technological prowess of some of the Council's most advanced species. But Jacobs wasn't speaking from a position of weakness. Earth had one advantage that none of the Council members had considered: humanity's unmatched resourcefulness and their inherent refusal to back down. The Council had assumed that Earth, as a newly inducted species, would simply fall in line. What they didn't account for was humanity's deep-rooted pride and their willingness to fight for their sovereignty. Jacobs understood that the Council's power was built on fear and coercion, not strength. The Council had always expected its demands to be met without question because no one had dared to resist. No species had ever been foolish enough to push back. Until now. The diplomatic channels went quiet for several tense days after Jacobs' message. Earth's leaders, both in government and military, scrambled to prepare for the inevitable retaliation. But Jacobs knew something they didn't: humanity's greatest strength wasn't its military might or its technological edge, it was its determination to defend its way of life. Humanity had faced extinction before and had clawed its way back. It had fought wars, endured plagues, and survived famines. Every time it had come out stronger. The Council had misjudged humanity in ways they would come to regret. In the following weeks, humanity began its preparations for war. Earth's militaries went into overdrive, quickly mobilizing resources, retrofitting ships, and creating new technologies at a pace never seen before. While the Council's species relied on advanced weaponry and large fleets, humanity adapted in ways that no one could predict. The humans had a history of repurposing existing technologies, turning the most rudimentary tools into formidable instruments of war. Their ability to improvise, to innovate under pressure, would become their greatest weapon. The Council, meanwhile, believed that humanity would buckle under the weight of its demands. They could not fathom that a species with no galactic experience could defy them, let alone fight back. But the Council underestimated the American diplomat, Thomas Jacobs, who had made it clear from the start that Earth would not be a pawn. It was a dangerous gamble, but Jacobs had calculated the risks. In his mind, humanity's refusal to bow to the Council was more than just about survival, it was a message. A message to every species in the galaxy that humanity would not be ruled. Jacobs' defiant stance would become the rallying cry for the people of Earth, uniting them under a single banner, one that would signal to the galaxy that humanity would fight for its place in the stars, regardless of the odds. The response from the Council was swift and decisive. A fleet of warships, vastly superior to anything humanity had ever seen, was dispatched to Earth's borders. The message was clear: submission or extinction. But for every threat, Every show of force, humanity's resolve hardened. The first shots of the conflict were fired, but they were not by the Council, they were from humanity. The battle that followed was nothing short of unprecedented. It was a fight of wills, and humanity would prove that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, it was a force to be reckoned with. The story of Thomas Jacobs and his unwavering refusal to bend would become the stuff of legend, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Thomas Jacobs stood firm, unwavering in his belief that humanity would not bend to the Council's demands. He knew full well the dangers of refusing such a powerful organization, but he also understood the most fundamental truth about humanity: we would not be subjugated. While his colleagues and other diplomats urged caution, advising that they should comply in the interest of peace, Jacobs saw things differently. He had come to the conclusion that the only way to secure humanity's place in the galaxy was to show the Council that Earth was no weakling, no helpless species at their mercy. Rather than capitulating, Jacobs did the unthinkable. He responded with a declaration of war. His reply was direct. "If you seek tribute, you will find it in the form of a challenge. We will not kneel. We will fight, and we will win." The message was sent across the galaxy with calculated precision, reaching the very heart of the Galactic Council in a matter of hours. The Council was stunned. For the first time in its long history, a species had dared to stand up against its demands with defiance. The response was swift but not immediate. The alien leaders, many of whom had never even heard of humanity before this, were at a loss. They didn't know whether to laugh or launch an assault on Earth immediately. The idea of challenging the Council was foreign to them. To most of the Council's members, Earth was a newly discovered species with no known intergalactic military power, no history of advanced weaponry, and no allies in this vast, hostile galaxy. But Jacobs had made a crucial miscalculation, or so it seemed. He had underestimated one thing: humanity's resourcefulness. In the face of impossible odds, humans were known to rally in ways no other species had ever done. Jacobs' defiant response wasn't just a challenge, it was a rallying cry. Within hours of his declaration, humanity's greatest minds went to work, developing new technologies, repurposing old military hardware, and retrofitting ships for combat. The collective will of humanity, driven by pride and the sheer refusal to bow down, began to turn Earth's war effort into something more formidable than anyone could have anticipated. The first strike came from humanity's military in the form of a single ship, a vessel not designed for war, but for exploration. The ship, a newly outfitted cruiser named Resolute, had been retrofitted with advanced alien technology salvaged from prior expeditions, coupled with humanity's own innovations. It was a daring strike against a remote outpost of the Galactic Council, a message not of submission, but of resilience. The Resolute struck hard, using advanced cloaking technology and unconventional weapons that had never been seen before. The strike was not intended to conquer, but to show the Council that humanity had not only the will to fight, but the ingenuity to surprise even the most powerful of adversaries. What followed was a cascade of humanity's response. Each planet, each nation on Earth, rallied its forces. It wasn't just military power that humanity brought to the table. It was their unmatched ability to adapt and improvise under pressure. Earth's war machines, though small and crude in comparison to the Council's mighty fleets, began to swarm the galaxy. Humans were not just fighting for their own survival, they were fighting for the right to stand as equals among the stars. The Galactic Council was forced into a reckoning. Its members had long assumed that their power would remain unchallenged, that the tribute system would continue without resistance. But humanity had shattered that illusion. The Council's high leaders, used to commanding overwhelming fleets and dominating lesser species, now found themselves scrambling to understand how a species with no tradition of war could fight back with such tenacity. And this was just the beginning. Over the next few months, humanity's defiance spread like wildfire. The Council found itself fighting a war on two fronts, against humanity's growing military might, and against its own reputation. The other species, many of whom had long resented the Council's oppressive methods, began to take notice. Whispers of rebellion stirred across the galaxy. several member species, once fearful of retribution, began to covertly offer support to humanity, sharing intelligence and resources in the hopes of breaking free from the Council's control. In the end, humanity's strength wasn't in their technology, nor their numbers, it was in their resolve. The Galactic Council, faced with a species that would not yield, eventually had no choice but to back down. A ceasefire was declared. Humanity, once seen as just another fledgling species, had proved its worth on the galactic stage. Not through submission, but through the audacity to defy the very powers that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. The tribute system, which had once been a cornerstone of the Galactic Council's dominance, was abolished. Earth was granted full sovereignty, and its place in the galaxy was secured, not as a subordinate, but as an equal. And as the last message from the Galactic Council came through to Earth, it was a simple statement, one that would go down in history. Humanity has earned its place.